Hi, everyone. We're going to talk about two different types of diplomacy during this age of imperialism and expansion. One called big stick diplomacy, which is going to be used by our president, Theodore Teddy Roosevelt, and the other dollar diplomacy, which is going to be used by his successor, the president after him. So let's look at big stick diplomacy. Here we see Teddy Roosevelt holding the big stick. We know it's his policy, it's his type of diplomacy. We'll look at this picture more in a minute. So Teddy Roosevelt would always say something like this: speak softly, but carry a big stick. Now, he doesn't mean actually carry a big stick. He is saying that we should negotiate, try to work things out with other countries that we're dealing with, that we have conflicts with. You can negotiate with economics, politics, all sorts of different things. And that's what he means by speak softly. So always try to work things out. Try to be peaceful. Try to get what you can by talking things out, negotiating. But make sure you always carry that big stick just in case you need it. And what do we think we mean by the big stick? Well, we mean the military. We mean the Navy. So if speaking softly doesn't work, if negotiating, working things out, using money, using politics, whatever, to get what you want doesn't work, or get what you need doesn't work, don't be afraid to use that military, use that strong Navy. Have it there just in case. Don't depend on speaking softly to get you what you want. You got to back up your words with military might, with naval might. So the primary place where he's going to use this that we've already talked about is with the Panama Canal. As you remember, hopefully, Panama, used to be part of Colombia. Panama wanted to break away and become their own country, and we're having a little rebellion, a little revolution to do so. And what Theodore Roosevelt wanted to do, what our president wanted to do, was build a canal, that man-made waterway. So he would negotiate with Colombia, ask them for permission, throw money at them, whatever. But Colombia didn't want us to finish that canal, didn't want us to build that canal so we can connect our two oceans, our Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean, to the Pacific Ocean, having that shortcut pathway. They didn't want us to do that. So, remember, that was our speaking softly part. Didn't work, so now we got to use the big stick. We got to use the military, we got to use the Navy to help get what we want. And what do we want? The canal, the Panama Canal. We want to build it. So then, remember, President Roosevelt is going to basically tell the Panamanian rebels, if we help you become independent, will you let us build the canal? And they said yes. So we threatened Colombia with our Navy and basically said, we'll get in this fight with you in Panama and help out the Panamanians, or you could just give them their independence, which will let them build, which will allow us to build a canal. And that's what happens. So that was our big stick. So threaten military force, use military force if speaking softly, if negotiating doesn't work. And here you see Theodore Roosevelt holding the big stick in the Caribbean. Now, his successor is a man named President William Howard Taft, President Taft, and he's going to move away from this big stick diplomacy and use something called dollar diplomacy. So instead of the big stick, instead of the Navy, we're using dollars, we're using money. So Taft would always say something like, substitute bullets for dollars. So instead of using the big stick, instead of using bullets, instead of using our military all over the place, let's try to use economics. Let's use money to get what we want. So what Taft wanted to do, like Roosevelt, was influence Latin America, to spread power over to Latin America, to spread American power and American businesses. Remember, at this time, we're still concerned with raw materials, opening up new markets to sell American goods to and such, and we're really concentrating on those new markets. And we want to be able to sell American products to this part of the world. So what Taft is going to say is, let's use money. Let's invest in Latin America. Let's bring American money, American businesses influence our relationship with Latin America through this investment, through this money. And that will enable us to get what we want and influence what's going on in Latin America. And it works to a certain extent. So just two different ways of looking at the world, specifically Latin America. Big stick versus dollars. One is more ingrained with military power, one is more with economics. Now, let's look at two political cartoons. Obviously, this is big stick diplomacy. We've seen Teddy Roosevelt, hopefully enough to know he is on, this is him. And what is he sitting on? Well, he's sitting on a naval boat, which represents big stick, which represents the big stick. The big stick represents the Navy, the military power. And where are we using it? Panama. Pretty simple, that one. Here's one with President Taft, and Taft was our largest president, as they show him in this caricature, in this cartoon. So he's kind of threatening Teddy's big stick, but we're not going to look at that part. We just want to make sure we understand it. So it says President Taft's dollar diplomacy. How is he dealing with other countries? Well, what's he sending them? He's sending them money. So not just money, he's sending American businesses down there. So right here we see U.S. Steel, Carnegie's steel company, oil, AT&T, all these big corporations, and they got money bags. They're ready to go down to Latin America and spread American culture, open new markets, all that stuff. Go invest in Latin America with the full faith of the U.S. government. And he's kind of threatening them with Teddy's big stick, which is just a joke. All right. So that's a basic understanding of big stick diplomacy and dollar diplomacy. Hope it helps. Thanks.